Welcome back, everybody, to the Miami Marlins franchise here on MLB The Show 23. We are currently getting towards the end of May here in season number 2, and the team is playing pretty good baseball. We're 24-25. We've won 4 consecutive series, and now we're only a game and a half back of the final wild card spot in the National League. In the last episode, we took our first look into the farm system, and we got a look at some of our top prospects, including Yuri Perez in AAA. It's only a matter of time until we call him up, and in real life, he's actually making his big league debut today. In AA, we got to see our top draft pick, Woody Landry, and the numbers speak for themselves. He's been really good this year, so he has been well worth our high draft pick on him so far. But our focus is going to go solely back to the big league club today as we get through the end of May and the first few weeks of June. During our little hot streak, I think the offense has been really producing. We've got some guys playing quite well at the moment. As you can see here, most of our lineup is on fire. Jazz Chisholm's been playing well recently, but he did start the year off pretty poorly, hence his big loss in rating to contact and power against righties. But over the last few weeks, he has been playing better. The young guys are producing. Brian De La Cruz is breaking out. Jesus Sanchez is playing well. Harrison Bader, though, not so much. His OPS is at 532. His numbers across the board are completely dreadful. He will likely take on a smaller offensive role until he can pick it up, because that signing so far has been an absolute disaster. The pitching's been up and down. Sandy Alcantara has been disappointing. The bullpen's been pretty bad. But we do have young guys, particularly Edward Cabrera, who are pitching really well at the moment. Now that we're about a third of the way through the season and we've seen how some guys have performed, I do want to make some shuffles with the roster, and that'll start with the struggling bullpen. We do have some guys performing quite well in the minors, including our international free agent signing, Adonis Takadopoulos, but I think we're going to call up Anthony Bender for now. Bender's a guy with some big league experience. In over 80 innings pitched, he has a sub-3 ERA, but he was injured for all of last year, recovering from Tommy John. He's back, and he's better than ever. He has not allowed a run yet in AAA, so he's going to return to the rotation, and he will take Matt Barnes' spot in the bullpen. Barnes is actually being traded to the Chicago Cubs. We just don't really need Matt Barnes anymore. As for Chicago, they're getting a veteran reliever, and we're getting a deep potential shortstop prospect in Jason Santana. I think there's some interesting tools with him, but with deep potential, that certainly limits his long-term upside. Victor Mesa Jr. will be getting called up to the big leagues. Last year in AAA, he was quite good. This year, he's been even better. I think he's earned an opportunity with the big league club. He's only 22 years old, and he's going to get bragging rights over his older brother, who is still currently in AA. Avisail Garcia, meanwhile, will be DFA'd. I just don't really want Avisail Garcia, to be brutally honest. This contract has been a total disaster for the Marlins. He has not played well at all, and he is still owed a lot of money. So chances are no one's going to pick him up off of waivers, and nobody's going to want to trade for him. So presumably he is going to be released. We're going to have to pay a large chunk of that contract, but honestly, I would rather do that with him gone, because I don't really want him. As I mentioned with Yuri Perez, it's only a matter of days at this point until he gets called up. But I've got to figure out who he would replace in the rotation. If we call him up, I'm not going to put him in the bullpen. He's going to start right away. So I would have to figure out whose spot he would take, likely either Garrett or Sixto Sanchez's. Another name to watch out for is infielder Xavier Edwards. He's been pretty disappointing this year after he was really good last year in the minors and he played well the final couple of months in the big leagues. I would have sent him down, but he is starting to play better, so I want to still give him another opportunity here in the big leagues. But he's probably going to see slightly less playing time, particularly against righties. He is pretty good against left-handed pitching, so I still want him to play there. Taking his spot against righties will be Victor Mesa Jr. We made a bunch of transactions within the minor league system as well, promoting guys who have been performing well and demoting guys who have not been playing so well to try to balance things out and give our guys the best opportunity to succeed. So we're going to take a look at this series in St. Louis against the Cardinals. I want to play Victor Mesa Jr.'s debut, but it's not going to be this game because the Cardinals are starting a lefty, Jordan Montgomery. We ended up winning 4-2. Jesus Sanchez went deep. Xavier Edwards had an extra base hit, just his third of the year. And Luis Arias went deep twice. He's already homered 6 times this year. His career high is 8. So that'll bring us to the second game. We're going to hop into this match. I want to get a look at Sandy Alcantara because obviously he's been pretty disappointing this year, facing off against a team who he originally signed with, the St. Louis Cardinals. Victor Mesa Jr. will be also making his big league debut tonight. He will be playing in center field, batting in the 9-hole, facing off against a talented Cardinals team who is currently well within the race for the National League Centrals. There are a few games over 500. The Marlins, meanwhile, exactly 500 at 25-25. There's a look at both lineups, and on the mound for the Cardinals, it'll be the veteran Miles Mikolas. 5.33 ERA, 1.53 whip. Not dreadful, but certainly below expectations for him. We'll see if he can have a good outing today against a strong Marlins lineup who has played pretty well these last couple of weeks. Brian De La Cruz is up. He hits this one well in a right field, and that one will go over the glove of international sensation Lars Nootbaar. De La Cruz is in for a double. He's hitting over 300 this year. He's hitting for good power. His defense is still a train wreck, but offensively, De La Cruz has been phenomenal. He's now on third for Rowdy Tellez, who hits this one high and deep in his center. Back at the track at the wall, it is caught. So that'll end the inning. Nice grab there by Tyler O'Neill, as the Marlins do not drive in anybody here in the first. Let's go to the bottom half of the inning and take a look at the ace, Sandy Alcantara, who has pitched well this year, but he has been performing poorly for his standards. 3.86 ERA, 1.08 whip. Again, not bad numbers by any stretch, but he isn't looking like the elite pitcher that we know he is. Alcantara started his professional career with the Cardinals before being traded in the Marcell Ozuna deal as he strikes out Dylan Carlson on the circle change. Good start for Sandy. That'll bring up Nolan Arenado, one of the best third basemen of our generation, maybe the best, and he goes down on the check swing. Quick 1-2 inning for Sandy Alcantara. Let's go bottom two. Nolan Gorman is up. He's going to hit this one well into center. That'll go for a hit. Victor Mesa Jr., the rookie, fields it cleanly. He'll be making his first at-bat in the next inning. And the Cardinals get a base runner. Wilson Contreras, the catcher, he will go down on the slider. Edwin Rios strikes out as well. The Cardinals struggling to put the bat to the ball early as Tyler O'Neill goes down on the 12-6 curve. After allowing the single to start the inning, Alcantara retires 3 in a row on strikes. And we go to the third. Victor Mesa Jr.'s up for his first big league at-bat. The 1-2 pitch, this one is slapped into left center, and that'll drop for a hit. Victor Mesa Jr.'s first major league at-bat ends in a single. That baseball is going to be saved for him forever. Victor Mesa Jr. now has a career batting average of 1,000, an all-time major league record. Is it going to hold up? Probably not, but he is the all-time record leader for now in batting average. Luis Ariz is up next, and he will hit this one into left center. That one will go into the gap for extras. Mesa should be able to score with ease. It's an RBI double for Luis Ariz, and the Marlins are on the board first as they lead it 1-0. Nice swing by Ariz, who's been playing very well recently. The extra base power, really a thing with him right now. Jazz Chisholm's up here. He goes down on the low sinker, so Michaelis gets through the inning, but not before allowing a run, as Luis Ariz hits an RBI double. Into the bottom of the third, Japanese sensation Lars Nootbaar hits this one down the line. With one away, he will make it over to second. So Nootbaar is in scoring position. Nice opportunity for the Cardinals to get themselves some runs. 2 away now for Dylan Carlson with Nootbaar on third. 1-2 count. This one is going to be popped into shallow left. Jesus Sanchez should be able to make the play, and he will. Good start here for Sandy Alcantara. He looks like himself through 3 innings. He's only allowed a couple of hits, a lot of strikeouts. Into the fourth now. Jesus Sanchez hits this one well into right center, and that one is gone. Solo home run for Jesus Sanchez, his 10th of the year, and the Miami Marlins lead it 2-0. 423 feet, a long one from Sanchez, who's really hitting the ball well this year. The contact has been a little bit better, but the power has been more consistent. That's the big thing with him. We know he's got great power tools, but it hasn't been consistent. This year, it has been, as he's on pace to finish with close to 30 home runs if he stays healthy. Gene Segura singles into center with 2 away. The Marlins clearly not done as Harrison Bader grounds it up the middle. Bobbled, and Bader, the longtime St. Louis Cardinal, is safe at first. So now there's 2 on, 2 away. A big opportunity for the Onion, Victor Mesa Jr. He's going to hit this one into left center field, and it will be caught. Mesa no longer has a career batting average of 1,000. The Marlins do extend the lead off of the solo home run by Jesus Sanchez as we go to the bottom of the fourth. Nolan Arenado goes down looking on the 12-6 curve. Nolan Gorman, the following batter, will join him in strikeout land as he swings and misses on the circle change. Sandy Alcantara looks unstoppable right now as he strikes out the side. Wilson Contreras goes down on the sinker. 4 scoreless for Sandy as we move into the fifth. Luis Arias drove in a run during his last at-bat, and he's going to get another base hit here, singling into left. Arias hitting over 300 this year. While the power has been noticeably better, the contact hasn't gone down at all, which is great to see. Brian De La Cruz gets his second hit of the game, a single into center. So that's going to knock Michaelis out of the game. He'll be replaced by the lefty, Zach Thompson. Thompson's been awful this year if you look at the numbers, ERA in the 7s. But the Marlins have a lot of lefties due up, including Jazz Chisholm, who strikes out. 2 away now for Nick Fortes. He hits this one into right field, and that one's going to drop. Fortes looking like he's going to get a double. 1 run scores, second looking to join. Fortes is actually going to try to make his way over to third, and he is out. He still drives in 2, however, and the Marlins lead it 4-0. So Miami's built themselves a nice lead here for their pitcher, Sandy Alcantara, but he's not going to slow down. Tyler O'Neill jumping out of his shoes as he goes down looking. Juan Yepes is now up with 2 away. Alcantara gets out of the inning again. Yepes strikes out on the circle change. 5 scoreless for Sandy. The Cardinals just cannot put the bat to the ball. Into the 6th now, Jesus Sanchez draws a walk. Sanchez is not the greatest against lefties, but he has improved in that area this year, particularly his power against left-handed pitching. Gene Segura, speaking of power, crushes this one into left center, and that one is gone. 2-run shot for Gene Segura, and the Marlins are now up 6-0, his 4th of the year. Victor Mesa Jr. up here, strikes out on the fastball. Even though the Marlins have a big lead, they can't get too comfortable. If you remember in the last episode, the Marlins were down 6-0 against the Cubs, and they ended up nearly winning that game. Luis Arias strikes out as well as we go to the bottom of the 6th. Tommy Edman hits it into right. Bader blocks it with his glove, but he's unable to make the grab. So Edman, the speedster, is aboard. We'll see if the Cardinals can drive them in and finally put themselves on the board. It won't be Dylan Carlson who does it. He goes down on the sinker. Still 6-0 as we go into the 7th. The big first baseman, Rowdy Tellez, is up, and Tellez tattoos this ball into right center. Deep at the track, at the wall, it is caught. Marlins still up convincingly, however, 6-0. Sandy Alcantara will remain in the game here. He's got a shutout through 6 as he starts off strong here in the bottom of the 7th, striking out Nolan Gorman. That's going to bring up the catcher, Wilson Contreras, who hits his ball high and deep into center field, and that one is not coming back. Solo home run for Wilson Contreras, and the St. Louis Cardinals are on the board, his 6th of the year, and it is now a 6-1 ball game. So at that, I think Sandy Alcantara is going to be taken out of the game. Sandy pitched great tonight, looking a lot more like himself. 6 1/3 innings, only allowing 1 run. But the pitch count is starting to get high. It's in the 1-teens. And he just allowed a homer there to Contreras. So he'll be replaced by the big lefty, A.J. Puck. 4.63 ERA. Overall, not terrible, but I wouldn't say he's been good by any stretch. We'll see if he can get through the rest of the 7th inning with no issue, as he will face off against Tyler O'Neill with 2 away and a full count. O'Neill flies this one into right. Harrison Bader directly under it. And the master Bader will make the grab. St. Louis does score here in the 7th with the homer by Contreras. However, the Marlins still lead it 6-1. We'll see if Miami can keep it going here over the final couple of innings as Tyler Duffy checks into the game here for the Cardinals. 2.7 ERA on the season in a little over 13 innings as he faces off against Nick Fortes to start things off. And Fortes hits this ball high and pretty deep in right field. Back at the track, it is gone. Solo home run for Nick Fortes, and the Marlins lead it 7-1. It really can't go understated how good Nick Fortes has been. He currently leads the National League in WAR. Not National League catchers, the entire National League. That's how good he has been. Jesus Sanchez gets his second hit of the game, hitting this one in the gap for extra bases. All the young guys, for the most part, are playing really well today. A lot of things are really coming together here these last few weeks for the Marlins. It's been great to see. This game, another one, assuming they're able to hold on, up 7-1. Victor Mesa Jr. up here. He had the single in his first at-bat, quiet since, as he singles again here in the right. Sanchez is going to look to score. The throw from Nootbaar is well in time. The Marlins decided to be aggressive on the base passes, and it backfires. Bottom 8, Puck still in. He does allow 2 hits here late in the inning to Edman and here Dylan Carlson. Miami was hoping to get Puck through the inning, but it doesn't look like that's going to happen. He'll be replaced by Anthony Bender, who had his first inning of work in Game 1 of this series against the Cardinals. Didn't allow any runs, and he's not going to allow any in this inning. Nolan Arenado goes down looking on the sinker as it remains 7-1. Bender will look to make his way through the 9th inning as well, as with a runner on third for Tyler O'Neill, it's a grounder to Gene Segura, and that'll do it. The Marlins win it 7-1. Miami takes their second game here in St. Louis, and that means the Miami Marlins have now won 5 consecutive series here in the month of May. Miami now has a record of 26-25, over 500 for the first time since early April. We had some guys play really well today. 3 hits for De La Cruz, Gene Segura 2 for 4 with a 2-run blast. Nick Fortes went deep, Sanchez 2 hits including the homer. But the real star of the show was Sandy Alcantara, 6 1/3, only allowing 1, striking out 12. Really showing the Cardinals what they're missing by trading him away all those years ago for a woman-hitting DUI driving outfielder who's not even on the roster anymore. So we're going to simulate here to this next week against the Mets, wrapping up the series against the Cardinals, and then 3 on the road in the desert against the Diamondbacks as we get offered a trade from the Blue Jays, Gene Segura for Danny Jansen. I think the Blue Jays offered us a Danny Jansen trade in the last episode as well for Jesus Luzardo. They're clearly trying to unload him with him being a free agent and Alejandro Kirk already on the team. The problem is we're really good at catcher. Nick Fortes has been a star this year, and we've got good players in the farm system. So we did not do overly well in our sim. We ended up going 1-3. In the 1 win, Edward Cabrera pitched 8 scoreless, though. So I'll take it. Cabrera's ERA now sub-3. We would lose this game against the Mets. Another rough outing for Sandy Alcantara as he allows 5 in 5 1/3 innings. So why exactly has Sandy not been pitching all that well? I took a deep dive into the numbers, and there's one outlier. The hits, not bad. A little bit higher than last year, but not bad. His walks are down. His strikeouts are up. His advanced numbers across the board look pretty good, but there's one noticeable problem. He's allowing the long ball a lot. 14 home runs in around 80 innings, and to put that in perspective, his Cy Young 2022 season, he only allowed 16. Last year, he only allowed 23. So if Sandy can clean up on the homers, he'll be fine, but that has very clearly been an issue for him. Before we get into this next series against the Mets, we do have our next prospect profile, as we're going to go over more players within this draft class. We'll be looking at some of the top international-born players in this draft. There are international players such as Josh Serrano, who are currently playing college baseball in the States. We're going to talk about those guys in the next episode. So if there are some notable international players who we skip on today, that is why. I've noticed that there are a lot of these top prospects who look like potential busts. The starting pitchers in this class being a perfect example. Christopher Aldridge and Carlos Guerrero are 2 international-born players who are projected top 10 picks, but our scouts see them as way worse. Since you've got a lot of busts at the top, you're also going to have a lot of gems, and that includes Hitoki Nomo, an 18-year-old lefty from Japan. Nomo's got an interesting skill set. He's not going to wow you with his stuff. He doesn't necessarily have elite velocity or elite break on his pitches, but he wins in other ways. He's all around very solid. He's a good lefty arm, and even though he doesn't throw super hard and has super nasty pitches, he's very reliable, steady, and consistent. And for an 18-year-old, I think that's pretty impressive. So even though he has 98 potential, possibly, I don't think his ceiling is all that high. But I think the floor with him is a solid starting pitcher. Rafael Ochoa could also be an interesting gem as well from Venezuela. The scouts see him as a potential top 10 player in the draft. Ochoa is a very similar prospect to the guy we just talked about, Hitoki Nomo. Ochoa doesn't necessarily have great stuff. He doesn't throw super hard. He doesn't have great break on his pitches, but he's, again, very consistent and reliable. I think realistically, both Nomo and Ochoa could be good candidates for the Marlins, probably with their second-round pick. I don't think they would look at them in the first round, but they could be intriguing gems. There are two catchers projected highly in this class, one of whom our scouts think is a bust, the other whom our scouts think is really good. The player who our scouts like a lot is Carmine Castro from the Dominican Republic. For being just 18 years old, Castro has a really nice stroke. Pause. He's a great contact hitter. The plate skills are pretty solid, and this is somebody with gold glove upside. I like the physical tools he brings behind the plate. He's got a good arm, good glove. I think he'll be able to stick at catcher at the next level. I will say, I think catcher is probably the strongest position in the Marlins farm system, but we don't like to draft for need early, so if he's on the board with our 11th pick, we will certainly consider him. As we look at the middle infield, again, a noticeable bust with Daisuke Fong, and a noticeably good player here at short with Ronald Andino. Fong is projected to be our selection at number 11, but our scouts think he might not even be a draftable prospect. Ronald Andino, on the other hand, looks like he could be a great candidate for Miami's top pick in the first round. Our scouts see him a little bit lower than the draft projection, but honestly, I really like this player. I think you could be looking at a future stud. Andino is certainly looking to be the next great Puerto Rican shortstop, following in the shoes of guys like Francisco Lindor, Carlos Correa, and Javier Baez. Maybe great is a little bit generous to describe Baez, but you get my point. This is somebody who I think is going to be able to stick it short defensively, and he checks off all the boxes as a shortstop prospect with his size. He's got a smooth lefty swing. He's great defensively. He's also versatile defensively. He can play just about every position on the diamond, but with his gold glove upside, there's no reason to not keep him at shortstop. The one question mark with him is his consistency offensively. He may never be a great hitter. He may never hit for 330 or 40 home runs, but think of like a Francisco Lindor, who's always a good hitter. I think that's the ceiling you could be looking at with Ronald Andino, so he will be absolutely in play for Miami's top selection at number 11 overall. In the next episode, we're going to go over some of the players playing college baseball, which there is a lot, so make sure to stay tuned for that next time around, but for now, we'll get back to the current Marlins. So that'll bring us to the second game of this New York Mets series. Here at home, we're rocking the City Connect jerseys. The New York Mets have been one of the most disappointing teams in baseball this year at 25-29, but they have won 7 in a row. They are playing a lot better. On the mound today for the Marlins is the lefty Braxton Garrett. He's pitched in 17 games this year, 5 of which he has started in, and he's been solid. 3.54 ERA, 1.45 whip. Nothing to go crazy about, but certainly solid across the board. He'll start with Starling Marte, the former Miami Marlin, who goes down looking on the sweeping curve. Nice pitch outside the strike zone for a called strike 3. Jeff McNeil grounds it down the first base line. Tellez quickly tags the bag. 1-2-3 inning here for the Marlins. Starting for the Mets today is David Peterson, the lefty. 2.77 ERA, 1.24 whip. Very, very strong start to the year for him. With older guys like Scherzer and Verlander starting to get worse, they're going to need him to really produce in this rotation, and he is, as he strikes out Jazz Chisholm to retire the side. No base runners yet, but Pete Alonso will certainly change that. Maybe he's not going to add a base runner per se, because he's not going to be on base. He's going to round him quickly with a mash into left field. 413 feet is 11th of the year. And the Mets lead it 1-0 with the solo shot by Big Meat Pete. A good swing there for Alonso, as that'll bring up Mark Vientos, who grounds to short. Xavier Edwards looks to make the throw to first, and it is not in time. Edwards was trying to set his feet, looking like a quarterback in the pocket, and as he was doing that, Vientos makes his way over to first. Kyer Garlick grounds it to third. Segura bobbles it, and he cannot make the play in time. So Vientos and Garlick both reach safely, and that'll give Brett Beatty, one of the big-time prospects in this organization, an opportunity to strike, and it looks like he will, hitting it into the gap. Brian De La Cruz completely misplays it, and that's going to cost a run. De La Cruz will send it over to the cutoff man, as that'll be a 2-run double for Brett Beatty, and the New York Mets lead it 3-0. The inning should have been over by now, but some poor defense across the board prevented that. Marte flies it into right center. Chisholm makes the grab. Good inning, though, for New York. They score 3 with a 2-run double by Beatty, and before that, the solo homer by Alonso. Into the bottom half of the inning, Rowdy Tellez is up for the Marlins. He hits this one well into center field, into the gap, and that one will go off the wall. Tellez going to hustle and bustle his way over to second with a double, and the Marlins have a runner in scoring position, so we'll see if they can get back at this Mets lead. The catcher, Nick Fortes, up next, and he will go down looking on the low fastball. Good pitch there by David Peterson for the first out of the inning. Jorge Soler is up now with 2 away and a full count. Soler with some big-time power against lefties as he grounds it to second. And Jeff McNeil makes an incredible defensive play, likely saving a run. So the Mets get out of the inning with no further damage done as it's 3-0 into the third. Steven Kwan hits this one into left. Brian De La Cruz would have been able to make the play if he did not have the reaction time of a sloth. De La Cruz throws it to second, where nobody is covering the base, and Kwan makes his way to third. Who am I supposed to blame for that? De La Cruz should have not thrown it to a base that nobody was covering, but I feel like somebody should have still been covering second. So De La Cruz will be taken out of the game for multiple defensive blunders. Harrison Bader will now replace him, and it looks like Kwan will be able to score as Jeff McNeil drives on a run. De La Cruz has had multiple defensive mistakes today, but he's not the only one. However, his benching hopefully can give him like a heads up, and the rest of the team a heads up that defense is important. Jesus Sanchez goes down on the 12-6 curve. Good pitch by Peterson, who's looking really good here early in this game. Now facing off against Luis Ariz. He strikes out on the fastball. 3 scoreless for Peterson, who's only allowed 1 base runner so far. The Mets look good early. They lead it 4-0. Braxton Garrett will get Vientos to go down looking. Braxton Garrett hasn't pitched all that well today, but it's also not his fault that he is the 2022 Chicago Bears defense behind him. Garrett will retire beside here in the 4th, finished off by a grounder to Luis Ariz. The Marlins still trail, however, 4-0. As we go to the bottom of the 4th, 2 away for Rowdy Tellez. He draws a walk. Tellez reaches base for the 2nd time today. That's 2 more times than the rest of the team combined. That'll bring up Nick Fortes now. He's in a hitter's friendly 3-1 count, and he will capitalize. Fortes with a bomb into center field, and that one is gone. Another homer for Nick Fortes. He's been one of the best players in the National League, period. His 10th homer of the season, 420 feet. Blaze it. And the Marlins cut the lead in half as it is now 4-2. Not only is Nick Fortes first in WAR in the National League, he's second in on base, top 5 in average, pretty high in OPS, and he's currently the front runner for the Gold Glove. He's doing it all. Harrison Bader goes down looking. That'll end the 4th. Not a bad inning, though. The Marlins get 2 back off of the homer by Nick Fortes. Into the 5th, Starling Marte singles into right center. Braxton Garrett had a very short leash coming into the 5th inning. If you allow a base runner, your day is over. He allowed a base runner, so now his day is over. He'll be replaced by the lefty, Devin Smeltzer, making his 5th appearance of the year. The long reliever's been not the best this season, but he starts off strong as Kwan grounds into a 5-4-3 double play. Good job by the Miami infield to quickly turn 2. Now into the bottom of the 5th. Jorge Soler leads off the inning for the Marlins. He hits this ball high, deep, in the left center field. Back at the track, at the wall, it is caught. I really thought that one was going to go over the fence, but it just does not quite have enough carry. 1 away now for Jesus Sanchez. He has a full count here, trying to get on base, and he will as he looks at the inside fastball, and Jesus Sanchez is aboard. That'll bring up Xavier Edwards. He hasn't really hit for much power this year, only 3 extra base hits. Make it 4! Edwards with a bat flip as he homers into left field, and this game is tied at 4. Edwards with his 2nd homer of the year. He doubles his home run and RBI total on the season with just 1 swing at the bat, and we're knotted up at 4 apiece. The Mets are out hitting the Marlins 8-3 today, but the Marlins have tied this game with a pair of homers by Fortes, and now Xavier Edwards trying to keep himself on this ball club, and plays like that will certainly help as he knocks Peterson out of the game. Diego Rodriguez, the 21-year-old rookie, will replace him out of the bullpen. Rodriguez hasn't been terrible, especially for a rookie, but I wouldn't say he's been great this year, as Gene Segura hits this one well into right center field, and that one goes off the wall. Segura will make his way to second for a double. Can the Marlins drive him in and look to take the lead here in the bottom of the 5th inning? A big opportunity now for Jazz Chisholm. He's behind in the count, 1-2. Pitch on its way from Rodriguez as Chisholm hits a ball out of the zone, and that's going to drop for a hit. Segura is going to look to make his way home. The throw to the plate is going to be close, and they got him! Segura is out. Starling Marte guns him down. The Marlins do score 2, though, off the homer by Edwards to tie it at 4. Reynaldo Lopez checks in the game here for Miami. He's got an ERA above 5, really not pitching as expected, but he's making his way through the inning strongly as he strikes out Francisco Alvarez. Let's go to the bottom of the 6th now. Rowdy Tellez leads things off for the Marlins. He strikes out on the slider. Both pitchers really trying to find a groove here as these offenses have heated up as this game is going along, the Marlins in particular. Nick Fortes goes down looking on the fastball coming off his home run in his previous at-bat. That'll bring up Harrison Bader. Hasn't done a whole lot since checking into the game earlier for De La Cruz. As he hits this one over to second, Jeff McNeil does a good job of deflecting it, but Bader will make his way to first safely for a base hit. So Marlins get a runner on and a big opportunity for Jorge Soler with that 98 power against lefties. And he draws a walk, so that'll get another runner aboard here, and that'll bring up Jesus Sanchez. He's going to pop this one into foul territory. It nears the wall. Stephen Kwan will make his way over there as he comes down with it. So we remain tied at 4 through 6. Now into the top of the 7th. Brett Beatty goes down looking. I know Reynaldo Lopez has been a little bit disappointing this year, but today he looks really good. He does allow a single here with 2 away to Starling Marte, so the Mets get a base runner here, and that'll bring up the sweet spot of the order. We'll see if Stephen Kwan can keep the inning going. He's got a full count, and Kwan's going to let that pitch go for a walk. So now there's 2 runners aboard. The Marlins were hoping Lopez would make it through the inning, but now that he's allowed 2 base runners, he'll be taken out for Wandy Peralta, who grounds it to third. Segura, what a play! He got him! Gene Segura with an incredible diving grab, saving a run. And this game remains tied as we go to the bottom of the 7th. Luis Ariz is up for Miami, and he gets plunked. So that's one way to get on base. So the Marlins have a base runner here for Gene Segura. He hits lefties very well, coming off the big defensive play in the last inning. But he will go down looking on the sinker. He thought about swinging, doesn't take, and it backfires. Into the 8th now, it's Jonathan Loaizaga checking in for Miami, 4.67 ERA as he faces off against Francisco Lindor with 1 away. Lindor gets that 1-1 hop off the wall for what looks like a double. So Lindor is in scoring position. We'll see if New York can drive him in and look to take the lead. That'll bring up Mark Vientos with 2 away. He's going to line it into left for a hit. Lindor will wisely not test the arm of Harrison Bader. So now there's runners on the corners and a huge opportunity for Mark Canha, the pinch hitter, to potentially take the lead for the Mets. And he's going to come through. Canha hits this one into left, and one hops off the scoreboard, and that'll go for a 2-run double. The Mets take a 6-4 lead here at the top of the 8th. Big swing for Mark Canha. So New York is now ahead, and the Marlins will make a pitching change. Replacing Loaizaga will be the big fella, A.J. Puck, as he looks to make it out of the inning against Brett Beatty. A little lefty-on-lefty crime. The Mets do score 2 here in the top of the 8th with the double from Canha. We'll see if New York can hold on for the win. Adam Ottavino, the veteran, checks into the game here in the bottom of the 8th. 5.40 ERA this season in 8.1 innings as he faces off against Rowdy Tellez to start things off. The Marlins got to get some base runners, and it looks like they will here. Tellez sharply hits a single into center field. So Tellez is back on base. With the tying run at the plate, we'll see if the Marlins can capitalize here in the bottom of the 8th. And it's Nick Fortes, who homered earlier in the game. He's been great all season long. As he hits this one up the middle, that'll go for a single. There you go. The Marlins get some base runners. We'll see if they can drive these guys in. With nobody out, there's no excuse not to. Harrison Bader's up next here for Miami. 2-1. Nobody gone, and Bader swings and misses at the fastball, pretty frustrated with himself for the first out of the inning. That'll bring up Jorge Soler now, 2-2 count, 2 on, 1 away. He swings at the inside sinker, very frustrated with himself, knowing he should not have swung at that pitch. So now the Mets are going to make a pitching change. The lefty Brooks Raley checks into the game, and they're doing this because the next batter is a lefty, Jesus Sanchez. I don't entirely blame them for doing this. But Sanchez will draw a walk. Good at bat. and the bases are now loaded. A huge opportunity for Xavier Edwards, who homered earlier in the game. He does well against lefties, but he strikes out on the sinker, and the Miami Marlins will leave them loaded. If I were to get $1 for all the times we've left both bases loaded in this series, I would have about $20. I know that doesn't seem like a lot, but if you really think about it, it kind of is. I don't know why we never succeed with the bases loaded. In the ninth now, A.J. Puck still in the game as McNeil hits it into right, and Sanchez makes the catch. Or did he? They don't think he caught it. I want to look at that replay. It very clearly looked like in real time that Jesus Sanchez caught the ball. As we look at the replay, I think he did. Let's get an even better angle right here. And yeah, I think he caught it. It looks like the ball deflects in his glove. Here's an even closer look right there. I think the ball bounced off the top part of his glove and bounced to the other side. I don't think it hit the ground. Here's another look. Yeah, that ball does not hit the ground. That's conclusive evidence. How does the game not recognize this? Jesus Sanchez clearly caught the ball. Instead, they're going to call it a base hit. There's no way of challenging it. And so now there's a base runner for Pete Alonso, who grounds it to second. Luis Arias makes the play. So the horrible call by the umpires letting that ball go in right ends up not really mattering, but it did rob Jesus Sanchez of a great defensive play. Blast your trumpets, folks, because Edwin Diaz is in for the save here in the ninth inning, and he will get it. Diaz quickly retires the side, finished by a Jazz Chisholm strikeout, and the New York Mets win it 6-4, your final score. Good win here for the Mets. They have now won 8 in a row, trying to climb back here within the National League East. The Mets offense started off hot, then they cooled down, but then they had the big double in the 8th inning by Mark Canha coming in off the bench to drive in 2. The pitching was pretty solid for them. David Peterson started off strong, and then the bullpen did great once he was taken out of the game. Our offense had a good run towards the middle with the 2-run homer by Fortes and then the 2-run homer by Edwards. But other than that, we weren't consistent enough. We left too many guys on base. Braxton Garrett did not pitch all that well. The bullpen kind of blew it, and our defense, for the most part, was pretty bad. So we're going to simulate here a little bit, getting through the Mets series, getting by Tampa Bay, and then a road stretch against Washington and Milwaukee. During our sim, we'd be offered a trade from the Mariners. They're offering us Matt Frazier for Braxton Garrett. We need a guy like Garrett more than Frazier, even though he's having a pretty good season, so I'm going to say no. Look at all that green. The Miami Marlins are on a 7-game win streak. We finished off the series against the Mets with a win, only took one against Tampa Bay, but we went 6-0 on our road trip with multiple great pitching performances. Complete game from Sandy. 7 2/3 scoreless for Sixto. Edward Cabrera had a really nice start. Braxton Garrett, complete game shutout. Our pitching is on fire. We're 35-32, second in the division. We had the second wild card in the National League. We have won 7 games in a row and are the hottest team in baseball. Is this just a mirage, or are our Miami Marlins legit? Because I see a lot of green on that screen. We're going to find out in the next episode as we make our way through the rest of June, or at least most of June. Do you guys think this hot stretch is something and we can try to build off of it? Or does this just happen to be a nice little win streak that's going to fizzle out? Let me know what you think down below in the comments. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you are new. Peace out.